Hello, my name is Katie and welcome to my shed. I am a little bit sweaty, which you probably didn't need to know, but I felt the need to share because I like to share things that people don't want to know about me. I actually don't know what the temperature is. It's hot. Let's have a look at what the weather is, because I know you're all excited to know what it was like last weekend. Apparently we're at 20 degrees where I am, but it does feel warmer. But it might just feel warmer because I've been doing gardening. So I've done some bit of weeding. We've moved a few more slabs to the bottom of the garden. They're big slabs, so they take a bit of effort to move. And this morning, don't come at me, I mowed the lawn. I always try to do no mow May. And it's not even very far into May. What are we now? The 9th. But I mean, I don't have a lot of lawn, but what's the word? Clover. I've got a lot of clover, and it's sort of, it mounds up. It's like I can't leave it like that. I've left the front unmown, so that'll be my contribution. Our front garden we seeded like a wild garden. This is our 3rd year of it. And it's starting to look a little bit better. The last few years it's been a bit pathetic, but this year a few more daisies have come up, like the oxide daisies, so it is looking a little bit better. But I was just saying to my husband, I was doing some weeding, and the ground and the plants look like it does in August because it's so dry. The plants are all crispy, so I don't think we're going to have a very colourful garden this year. So I have sold both the prints that were done last week, and I've ordered some more, so that's very exciting. This weekend I am doing the craft fair, that local one. It's a little charity one, and it was super cheap for a stall, so it was, I can't remember, I think it was like £5 or £10 for a stall. It's only a few hours. I'm not expecting a massive footfall, so I'm going to take cards and probably a few small prints. Just want things that I can sell for sort of under 30 quid, I think. Because most people that visit those sorts of things don't want to spend big money, do they? And yeah, so I've got to get that ready. I'll probably take you with me if I can do like a setup video without it being too cringy. It's only small, so I feel like people will notice me filming, but I'll try. If not, I'll just do a few clips on my phone of the store once it's set up. This week I want to do something that I haven't done for quite a few years, and as usual I'm not testing this out before we film it, because I like the jeopardy of not knowing what I'm doing and sharing that with you all. Apparently I want to do some soft pastels, so I don't know if you've watched any of the very early videos, you might know this about me, but I sort of came back onto my art journey when I hit 30, and I started printmaking, and I only did printmaking for about 7-8 years, and then I started doing pastel work as well, and that's where I got into other types of art, because the teacher that was teaching us was primarily a pastel artist, but then started teaching us mixed media and all sorts of stuff. So that's where I sort of started my drawing stroke painting evolution, if you will. And I've got lots of really delicious pastels. I don't know how well they'll have aged, having been sat in this shed, but I've got quite a few brands. I really like Unison and Sennelier, but Unison are probably my favourites, but I have got other brands, so I'll show you what I've got. Hello, it's much later in the week. How are you doing? I realise I haven't been in since early in the weekend. And we're going to have a change of direction. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One is that a couple of you popped comments on last week's video which kind of resonated with me, which was about having a, what's the word? I mean, a direction or a plan for what you're trying to create, because the last few weeks have been terrible, haven't they? And I agree with that. And I know there's a lot to be said about exploration and having fun and playing, but also I think, I don't, what's that old saying? If you don't have a map, you don't know where you're going, or something along those lines. Anyway, I'm talking rubbish, but it made me think, actually, let's have a think about what I really want to do with this painting. I know I can't do that in pastel, so I'm not going to. But I also felt like I needed some products to do what I wanted to do. That's a lie. I just wanted to buy something. The Holbein acrylic gouache, I say it differently every time, it must really annoy you, gouache, was on offer on Jackson's, and I knew I wanted a couple, mainly for underpainting, because I'm struggling with that when I'm doing the mixed media, because I'm using my traditional gouache and that is water-based, so it reactivates. So I wanted to get something that wouldn't reactivate, but I didn't want to use my acrylic paints because they're too shiny and you can't work over them. So that's what I've done. But they're not here yet, so we can't do that video today. But that's okay, because it did, all this talk about pastels the other day did make me think I want to get a bit more familiar with my pastels. So when we were in at the weekend, I did start sort of swatching out some of it. I'm probably going to cut that out and we're going to start again, because I was swatching on top of underpainting for the painting that we're now not going to do. Very confusing. In my head it makes sense. So what we're going to do today is swatch out some of my pastels. Help me get a little bit more of a feel and reorientate myself with the pastels. I can't think of a better word, because it's been so long since I've used them. I was going to tell you about the craft fair as well. So the craft fair, well, it was more of a tabletop fair, I think, is the tabletop sale is probably the best word for it. And it was local and it was all for a lovely charity, but I think they probably had about 20 or 30 people come through the doors, and consequently I sold one greeting card. So it was not my most successful afternoon of sales. So yeah, the good thing was it took me like 5 minutes to get to. It was a quick setup because it was quite small and I didn't take a lot. You know, these things happen. Just be grateful that I'm not relying on that as my wages, otherwise we would not be eating this week. And also, I don't know what's happened to the weather. It's been sunny all week and this morning it's grey and rainy and miserable, consequently cold, and the hat is back on, which is a bit sad. I think the forecast is that it will brighten up this afternoon, so I'm hoping I might be able to get a couple of slabs laid for that shed base, but we will see. But whilst it's miserable, I'm going to do this swatching out, and I've got a few papers. I did show you one, but I'll show you again in case I cut that out, which is the pastel mat, Clairefontaine pastel mat. This was the thing we started, and we will start again. So I've got a couple of packs. I've got one which is all white, and I have got one which is different colours. I quite like the neutral colours. But I think what we're going to... Oh, I've also got some De La Rowney pastel paper. I really don't like this. I don't like the grain on it, tooth on it. It's kind of too regular, a bit like that print. I don't really like regular grains, and I tend to use this more for mounting cards and things, which is quite an expensive way of doing it, but so we might use some of that. But I've also just found this, which is just wet and dry sandpaper in a 400, what is it in sandpaper? Grain, 400 tooth. It's fine, that's what it means. I don't know. Now this stuff is really toothy, so it will, just bear in mind, it will eat up your pastels. But it's a really nice paper to use pastels on. So I'm going to use some of this, and hopefully it won't eat all of my pastels. But even if it does, like I say, we've had them a long time. I don't use them much anymore, and I don't want to feel guilty about using them. So we're going to use that. I'm not going to swatch out all of my pastels. So I've got them all out of the cupboard. I've got these. There's a whole box over here of Sennelier. I will say these were gifted to me by my friend Amanda many years ago. She'd stopped using pastels. And then in here I've got other ones that I've had over the years, and these are all different Sennelier ones. This says Rembrandt, it's not, it's Sennelier. So I've just used the box. As is this, and there's another box of Unison there. I have also got some cheap ones. I've got some Rembrandts somewhere. They're in this drawer over here. I might get those out. And some cheap pastels. So I might show you those, just because if any of you are setting out in the pastel world, you don't necessarily want to be spending loads of money on Unison and Sennelier. They're beautiful, but they're a lot of pennies. So let's turn you around. I've waffled, proper waffled, sorry. Turn you around, and then we're going to make a decision about what I'm swatching out, because we can't swatch all of this. It will take hours, and I think it'll be a little bit boring. I found my other pastels. So I've got a whole selection. I've sorted them by colour, so I won't know all the brands. But these are the inscribed ones. Now, I mean, I've had these for a while, but they were £10 for 64 colours, which is great value. You could probably pick them up cheaper elsewhere. But if you look at the colour set in here, that's amazing. And they are really pigmented, and they're great. They're just a little bit hard for what I like. But actually for mixed media work, I think they'll be quite useful. So we've got those. And I think they're a great beginner set. And I've also got some Rembrandts, which are hiding in these boxes. So these round ones are Rembrandts. Now they're quite hard as well, and they're fairly good value. So what I think I'm going to do today is just swatch out like one colour. And I think I'm going to start with the greens, because I do use, or did use, quite a lot of greens. Use a lot of greens for my landscapes. So and use pastels rather for landscapes. So let's make a start on some greens. Now I'm not going to know all of the colour names of these. Oh my goodness me, there's so much mess. I'm going to start with the inscribes. And I don't know I don't think these have colour names. I don't know that we can do all of them, there's so many. Can you see how nicely that lays down on here? That's a lovely colour, that one is. I'm not going to do that one. I'll keep that one with the blues. A bit crumbly. I'm not surprised they're a bit crumbly, because they've probably got damp intermittently in this shed. I mean, they're so bright, vibrant. Right, let's write inscribe on here. Inscribe. And I'm going to have a little look through here and find some of the Rembrandt ones. I'm going to try match them, you know, with colours where I can, so that we can compare. I think I've also got some Rembrandts in this little one. I set this up as a plein air kit. Oh, that's nice. I like that one. And this one. Now my storage of pastels is pretty dire. Apologies if that offends you. You can store them much nicer and put, you know, not sand, what's the word? Rice in there, and that would work. Right, let's get my bottom down. Oh my goodness me. I'd forgotten how mucky they are to work with. Don't need those, they are blue. There we are. So here's some Senneliers. Greens, I've got quite a lot. Again, I'm not sure which set they were. I would have bought them over the years. These ones are actually numbered, so that would, if I had the inclination and I wasn't doing it on sandpaper, I could write the numbers down. I may well do that in future if I can get the pastel ground to work well, and then I can do it on paper. But again, I'm going to try and put them with similar colours. These already, they just feel a little bit more buttery. Just think that, I mean, look, for the price difference, there really isn't a lot in it, is there? So this is the Paris collection of soft pastels, half pan, half pastels, half stick, that's the word. And these are the ones that my friend Amanda gave me, which was super generous of her. Now, oh, there's loads of greens again, loads of greens. I suspect a lot of these are duplicates, but right, let's make a start. I'm going to have a look for ones that look similar and just, that is different, very slightly, but it is different. I actually prefer them out of the sleeves. They're just a little bit easier for me to handle, and I like to sort of drag marks. This one's another different one. I mean, how many different greens have Sennelier got, do we think? I think this is why I struggle with pastels, because I have a box of 400 greens in front of me and I want to use every single green I can. And then I wonder why it gets a bit muddy. Is that a green? I think that might be a green. Oh. Did you say green or yellow? These are the same. No, again, it's very slightly different, isn't it? And this is with the greens, interestingly. But that's definitely a cream. think that's all of them. Right, what do we think so far? We've got a lot more choice. I think there's a couple of duplicates, but not many within this. Maybe some of these ones might be duplicates, but I don't know. It doesn't help that not all of them have got the numbers, does it? Right, now let's look at the unison. So this is my 16 set. There's only a couple of greens in here. So let's swatch these ones out. They're a bit mucky, so I'm not sure how the colours will come out. They're quite smooth, but not much smoother than, like as in much more buttery than the Senneliers. And there's this one, which I don't think we've got anything like this yet, which is a really pale green. That's possibly the closest, but that one's quite yellow, whereas this one's definitely a green. This one I think is my favourite set because it's a half stick. It's 30 colours, so it's manageable. I'm not as likely to get super carried away and use 4,000 different colours, but there's some really nice greens in here. So let's start with the dark. I mean, maybe that one's probably the closest one. That's quite similar to that one, isn't it? I'm not sure again if this is a yellow or a, yeah, that's a cream. We don't want that one. And then we've got these sort of grey greens. So that's that set. Okay, what's in here? Rather half-deep. This one that we've got the number on, so this one is green 8. I think we swatched this one out the other day. I like this. I don't. It's probably the closest to that inscribed one up there. Actually, that's very similar, isn't it? It's a little bit more vibrant than the inscribed one, but I mean, there's not a lot in it. Okay, we'll have a look in the darks. Got a few greens in here. I think we might have some duplicates. Nope, that's slightly different. Yep, a little bit more olivey. With most of these I'll be able to quickly see if there are duplicates because they are numbered. We're nearly there. Actually, we're not nearly there. I've still got quite a few. I'm not sure what we've got in this one or what set this one is. This one's got some quite vibrant ones, which I don't think we've swatched out yet. So, green 29. Quite similar to that one there. Oh, that's green. Sorry, you can't see it because it's so disgusting. These are all my greys. No. Some blue greys and some purple greys, but not some green greys. And then this big boy over here. I don't know if this has got the colours in. No, it's just about Unison. Oh, that's a nice set as well. I forget what I've got. You know, I've got some lovely things. Some of them look quite, that looks different. So let's swatch these ones out. Again, I'm going to just see. There you go. I think we've got a snap there. And there. So these are a couple of duplicates. I think this one is as well. Yep. So that was in my little set, wasn't it? That one is different. What is it? Yeah, different to both of those. Dark. That's the same as that one. So we've got a few duplicates here. This one doesn't look like any of them. It looks like a really blue-green. Which I think might be a snap. No, that's slightly darker than that one. This set is pretty delicious. I don't know what it's called. How many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 9. It's a 63? 63 set. I might have to look that up. I've had them a long time. I don't know if Unison do the same sets that they did. Honestly, looking at them, there's not masses of difference, is there? I think they do feel different when you're laying them down, but I would suggest go with what your budget can afford, because these inscribes are perfectly fine. Then don't feel as luxurious when you're laying them down, but the colour set is fine. They're, you know, you haven't really got the darks that you've got with the more expensive colours. What I haven't done is tried to blend them out. That's a personal choice because I don't generally blend. Also, I wonder if I might just cut my finger up. Yeah. I'll end up with no fingerprints left, which may be not a bad thing. Not necessarily planning on committing any crimes, but I'm just going to do one of each just to get a feel for how well they blend out. So from a feel point of view, the Senneliers actually feel smoother to blend out. Have you got a favourite? I feel like these Senneliers, we've got loads of really vibrant bright greens, whereas the Unison offers a lot more in the way of these sort of naturals and dark greens. Obviously we have got some vibrant ones here. I love that colour. And I love that colour. And what you can do with pastels, which I guess a lot of people don't talk about, is you can layer them. Rather than blending them, you can just layer them on top of each other if you're gentle enough. Actually, let's get another piece of paper and I'll just show you that. I'm going to use the Unison because that's what I've got out. So what we could do, if we were drawing a tree, for example, now I haven't got one in front, well I have got one in front of me, but is you can lay down some darks. Be pleased to know I'm no more accurate when I'm using pastels than I am when I'm painting. And then, providing you're gentle, you can start layering up your colours over the top. You will get an element of sort of colours blending together, but you can just layer them over without having to smudge them all together. This one's a little bit, because these are handmade, you can see they're a little bit wonky. You won't necessarily get flat lines when you're dragging them, but I quite like that. And you can kind of layer quite a lot, to be fair, depending on the paper you use. But if you're using a pastel paper, it will generally take quite a lot. And this sandpaper will take loads. If you're just using a smooth paper, you'd find you wouldn't be able to get as many layers on. We've got dark in here, but so we're going to use this. You can see how I didn't like that blue. I can work over it in layers. Now if you don't want the black showing through, or the paper undercover, oh my goodness, Katie, the colour of the paper from underneath coming through, you can just blend it in. So you could use a brush to blend it. You can use your finger, you can use a blending stick. I don't own any of those, I don't think. No, I don't. Obviously if you use a brush, there's a risk that it lifts it up. I just don't like the look of that, so let's go with a slightly lighter colour. You can see how I've already used 800 colours when one would have done. And let's get some detailing down here. This is looking a bit Christmassy, isn't it? I'm going to get a little bit of blue-green in here. So give me a bit of shadow. And then if I wanted to go in and like put some flowers in, put some daisies in the grass. And I mean, it's been a long time since I've done it, but I always used to like to put in a bit of detail. So maybe some cloud detail. Add a bit of interest, but I mean, I think I'm just making a mess at this point. The other thing you can do with pastels is, and it's a little bit controversial, you can add some water to soft pastels. And I know they're chalks and you wouldn't want to add a lot of water because, but you can actually blend with water with pastels. And you'll see it will lift a lot of it up. Or you can use alcohol if you've got some alcohol. I think I might be using the wrong brush, if I'm honest. It's lifting a lot of the colour up. You just need to be careful what paper you're doing this on. Wet and dry would be perfect. But if you were using something like this, Sennelier Sans Fix, absolutely don't use any water. sure how well you can work over it while it's wet. You might gummy up your pastel. You probably wouldn't want to do this with your expensive pastels. Just use, if you're using the Inscribes maybe. I feel like that's made it terrible. So I'll let that dry and then I'm going to work over the top of that. Really need a dark for that, which I do not have in this set, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue to it. If I'd have used a more neutral paper, this wouldn't be looking so, the sky wouldn't be looking so muddy. Just going to let that dry. So what that has done, where I wet it, I've actually lost a lot of the tooth. You can't feel it, obviously. That feels smooth now and this still feels rough, so it's hard to work over the top. You can, but it just goes a bit sort of slimy. There are techniques for lifting some of that, so if I had gone over it too heavy, I could use a stiff brush to lift some of that pastel up. Toothbrush would work well, or just a stiff bristle brush to lift some of it, and then you can work back over the top. But I'm not that invested or inclined to do so. So yeah, I was just trying to show you how you can work over the top. Let's tidy up and then have a chat. You know me, I can't leave it. I just can't. I've got issues, haven't I? I want to try and lift some of this really, but yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to go in with a little bit of detail because I like a little bit of detail, don't I? So I'm going to use my pastel pencils that's broken. The reason I bought this pencil sharpener, which I know we've talked about a lot of times before, but this one is a Tesco's pencil sharpener, but it works brilliantly on these soft pastels. It was one of the ones that's been recommended on many of the sort of pastel artist groups, and it is dirt cheap. You can get some amazing expensive pencil sharpeners if you wish, but for me this one is good enough. And you can just go in with your pastel pencils and add in a little bit of detail, because you can't, well, I can't get that detail with the actual pastels. Right, I really need to stop faffing around. Now, I'm not a fixer, but there are different ways you can fix pastels if you want to. If you think about back in the day, we probably all used to use hairspray. I mean, a lot of people still would do that. Or you can buy fixatives. Have I got one? I have got some fixatives. I don't tend to use it. Hang on. I don't know how good it is because I've had it a long time. I've got this one, which is Winsor Newton Professional Fixative. You can tell how old it is just by the label and the fact the shop doesn't exist anymore. I'm going to fix it just to show you what it looks like once it's fixed. So let's have a look. That's what it looks like now. I might have to cover this camera because I don't want to get stuff on it. So I'm just going to move you out of the way and spray it. I think it's dulled it a little bit, but I will compare it properly with the video that I took before. Right, let's talk. Rather excitingly, it stopped raining and the sun is coming out. It's still a little bit wet, but I probably could lay a couple of slabs. So let's have a look at this. I mean, it's not my best work, but I rarely do my best work when I'm not looking at a picture and I'm just making it up from my head. But I hope you can see that how you can layer it without having to blend. And actually where I blended it turned into a hot mess. And let's look at these greens. I mean, this just makes me happy. I'm definitely going to do this for my other colours. Let me know if that's something you want to see. If you want to see it, then I'll do it on camera. If not, I will just do it and pop them up on the wall. And I also want to go through properly and see if I can work out what colours they are and what numbers they are, because that will make life a lot easier for me in the future. There are really not that many duplicates. Sorry, I'm staring at them, you can't see. There are not that, I can't see that many duplicates for each colour. There's a couple, but not loads. And as I've said before, I think go with what suits your budget and how often you think you're going to use them. If you're going to work primarily in pastels, then splurge and go for the nice ones. If you don't, go for the cheaper ones. They're all fine. If I'm honest, they're all fine. The cheaper ones just probably have a little bit more binder and sort of chalk rather than pigment. Yeah. And apologies, I am not a pastel expert. It was definitely where I started, but isn't where I am at the moment. But it has made me want to think about how I can use them in my mixed media work a little bit more. It's quite hard with soft pastels because they do lift a little bit more, so I have to have a think about how that works in reality. Whereas oil pastels, obviously you can work over the top. Yeah, I don't think I've got much else to say. I am going to sort this out. I would say, my goodness, it took me ages to clean the desk. So much dust, even just from this little bit of swatching. And granted, I am doing it on this sandpaper, which does create a bit more dust, but if you've got any chest problems, I would not recommend using pastels. Soft pastels, that is. So here's what we've got. I am going to tidy up, go and lay some slabs, and then I'm hoping that my delivery from Jackson's comes tomorrow, so that on Friday we can start doing this other painting of the landscape that I want to do. Fingers crossed. I've also got one more idea which I'm very excited to do, which I'll share with you next week. So yes, this week has been another one that's been a little bit random, but what I didn't want to do is create something that wasn't ready to come out. Excuse me. In that I want to have the paints that I want. Am I justifying spending more money? Yes, probably. I can't, it is what it is. Right, I'm going to love you and leave you. The sun is, as the sun's come out now, the great hits come out. They are still building the nest in that stupid place in the urn where they build it every year. I don't think they ever fledge. Right, have a lovely week and I will see you soon. Bye.